Welcome to the Naked Peaches. I'm Anna.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Megan.
Yay!
Yay, Megan.
We're so excited to have Megan here.
This is a blessing on the pod.
Yeah. We've been talking about doing this for a long time. So Megan is going to be talking to us today about all of her expertise and experience in trying new things and kind of becoming skilled at trying things as an adult, right? That's our topic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm uncomfortable with expert, but yes. Okay. Yes.
Okay, not expert.
I think I'm an expert in almost nothing, but I've done a lot of stuff.
But that's the attitude you have to take to try things, right?
Yes.
I'm not an expert.
Yes.
I'm just going to do it.
Yes. Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
Being not an expert. That's what we're talking about
yes.
today.
Yes. And I'd say you're one of the top fans of the pod, too. You listen religiously every week.
Huge fan. Religious.
I love that.
And you always message us about it. So we love your feedback.
I feel like I'm is it too much? Am I concerning myself too much? But I love the pod, so.
Well, and it's I know you're a podcast girl, so
Yes.
you listening to the pod is an honor because I know you're not just listening to any podcast.
That's true. That's true. Selective.
She's discerning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love.
Okay, so before we get too much into it, I want to talk a little bit about how we know each other. We go way back. So I'm gonna try and keep it tight, keep it cute because I could go on for a long time.
I know. We have a history.
Yeah. We met 14. Wait. Hold on, I have to think about when I got sober.
I think you were 18.
I was 18, yeah.
So however much that maths.
14 years ago.
Okay. That's how long. Long time.
Yeah.
Long time.
We've known each other for a long time. We met because we're both sober, and Megan was my first sponsor. Is that okay to say?
Was I your first or second?
Well, you were my first sponsor whose name I remember. I had another sponsor before you, but I have no idea who she was.
I like that even better.
I mean, she shout out to her because she was
got
the
you to
first
me.
person.
Yeah, you know I'll take it.
She took me to New Seasons and was this is she started working the steps with me, and I stayed sober that night, so she helped me, but I just don't remember her name or anything because I was all over.
Wait,
the place.
she took you there to distract you?
Sort of. I met her at a meeting and she was let's go get a tea and kind of talk and I'll help you, share my experience. It's a very common thing sort of.
That's what you do.
Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, Megan was my first real sponsor where we really worked together.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I just feel she taught me everything I know about everything. That's pretty much, that sums up our relationship.
Yeah, there's been a lot. We've been connected for a long time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a lot of different ways. I love it.
Yeah,
so much.
I know. I mean, we even we worked together at a beauty store for a period of time because she helped me get a job there.
Yeah. You crashed at my place one time for a week.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I have such good memories of that time.
Me too. That was a fun week. I think about that.
Yeah. You taught me how to blend eyeshadow while I was staying at your house.
That's
a really good skill. Mm-hmm. That's a true friend is going to teach you how to blend your eyeshadows.
Yeah. I actually remember, I have this memory of going to a sober toga party with some of the other girls that were that I was friends with at that time, and going to your house beforehand and you doing our makeup. Do you remember this? It feels like a fever dream. Did I go to a sober toga party?
I
don't think you went to the party.
I was just doing...
we're going to Megan's to get our makeup done for the sober toga party.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I love that. I love that I did that.
But I mean, that's the kind, I feel that's just the kind of dynamic we've always had,
Yeah. I feel like there's been kind of a big sister, little sister quality, but only a little bit, and now maybe to a lesser extent because we're both grown-ups and, not... But, there's been a little bit of that,
Yeah, for sure. You're definitely, my big sister.
Yeah, you're the little sister I never had.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is so cute. What a good intro.
Yeah, and so that's how we know each other. And, she does me and Anna's brows now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm,
yeah. Mm-hmm. And Camp Kramer, which we've talked about a ton on the pod.
Yes.
Oh, my God, and thank you for that.
Yes.
Every time you talk about Camp Kramer, I'm I just have, Thank you.
If you're listening to the pod and you don't know what Camp Kramer is, what are you doing?
Are you even a fan?
Yeah, you're not. You're not.
Clearly you're not paying attention.
Yeah. And Camp Kramer is going to be at our Galentine's Day party.
Yes. We're so excited. Chantel, my better half of Camp Kramer, she's so excited too. She can't wait to meet you guys. She's been binging the podcast for the last like week she was like a little behind and was just like straight binged like all the episodes and was like, I can't wait. I'm going to be so sweaty and they're not going to care and I can't wait. So she's going to be fine with me saying that.
Okay, speaking of sweating, today after this episode, Anna and I are going and doing a shoot together. We're shooting each other.
Yes.
This is something we've been talking about for a while. We've been calling it our slutty shoot. That's the concept.
Yes.
Hi, Art.
And this is because our husbands, obviously our husbands have a lot of photos of us, like boudoir photos, because, you know, obviously. But I feel like they both have very similar taste in what they like and what they tell us they like, and they're always just like, oh, like sluttier, like fishnets, like just a string, like barely anything, like get naked.
Yeah. We're going to be doing some like oiling, slow-mo butt situations today.
Slutty.
Very slutty. Yeah. A lot of like fishnets, a lot of strings, a lot of, it's going to be hot.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I have a vision for a photo of the two of us together, by the way, that I'm really excited about.
Taylor and I have been sending each other pose inspo all week. And then this morning we're getting ready for the pod and we're trying to do full glam on ourselves so we can go take photos. And then we're going to eat and do a photo shoot after this. It's going to be great.
Girls who do it all.
Yes.
Can we just side note that one of my favorite things ever, one of my favorite trends ever right now is like calling boys slutty.
Yes.
Oh my God, I love it so much. Like little short shorts and being like the sluttiest thing a guy can do is have like a thigh tattoo or like short. I just like love calling boys slutty.
Me too.
My husband loves a short short.
Oh.
And he's super tall, so it looks even
slut.
shorter on him.
I love it.
I know. It's great.
He's such a slut.
He's such a slut. Yeah.
Colin loves his gray sweat shorts.
Slut.
Huge slut.
Huge slut.
Max regularly has his shirt is like a little too short. It's like very slutty, like a tiny bit of midriff.
So slutty.
Very slutty.
It's a crop top.
Yeah.
It's really cute.
Okay, so before we go into the episode, I just want to say something really exciting that happened this last week, which you don't know about, but I'll fill you in. So, okay, I am like, you know, New Year. We talked a little bit like in the previous pod about just like manifesting, affirmations, like exciting stuff we're hoping for the year. So last week I'm sitting there and this guy, this like male model, likes a couple of my photos, comments on one of them, and I open up his page and this man is stunning. Like just a Greek god, like beautiful. And I was like, oh my God, I need to shoot this male model. Like he's so gorgeous. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't know if I should reach out. I was like kind of nervous. And then he like commented on the video I posted of like Anji's shower scene and was basically like, I would like love to do a shower scene. Like I want this. And I almost died because like my soul left my body. I'm like, yes. And I like responded to his comment and then a day went by and like he hadn't said anything and I was like, oh God, like maybe he changed his mind. But I was like, I'm just going to DM him too. Like, let me just get in his DMs. And I was like, hey, we need to shoot together, you know, whatever. And then later that day, he like responded to my comment and then DM'd me back and was like, oh, you already DM'd me. Like, this is great. Let's set this up. So it's in the works now. And I'm just like, the world is working in amazing ways. And I am so excited right now for this male model.
I'm so excited for you.
Yeah. Well, obviously you're coming.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you're coming.
Yeah.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to see that.
I also can't, like, the world is going to be graced with these beautiful shower photos. It's going to be next level.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I feel like your whole journey of like just shooting your shot and having this relaxed attitude all the time, and I don't know, it's really been working for you. Like I feel like you're just, all these good things are happening to you. She's like making all these amazing things happen lately. I'm just like, okay, Anna, like I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like this is going to tie into what you're going to be talking about today. So I'm excited to like add on to some of the stuff you're going to say.
Yeah, I have a lot. I can already feel I have bubbling up lots of things to say.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get into it, should we have Megan ask us her questions? Because she told us she came prepared with some questions.
Well, immediately
today.
I have questions.
Yeah.
As an avid listener, things I have not heard you guys talk about yet, which is one, you guys have talked about like significant others following you on Instagram and how they feel, how basically like you feel and clients feel about like posting online. But like we have not talked about like dads or like family members who follow you on the internet, and like how do you feel about like, you know, grandpa running across like your ass on Instagram? Because I have like a very supportive family and they're always like showing up, you know, for things that I'm like, I don't know if I want like my dad to like listen to this. Like I just like don't know if I want to be hurt. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to feel self-conscious in that way. So like, how do you feel about that? And then clients and things like that, like please talk more about that. Mm-hmm. Talk about dads.
Yes.
Family, you know.
Yeah.
That's Such a good question.
Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
My dad is also super supportive.
Love a supportive dad.
Yeah. I mean, my whole family is very supportive of my career and everything I do. They're the same way. You know, they just want to cheer me on, which is great. But the first time I modeled for a boudoir shoot, the first photo that was posted of me was like a very risque one. It was like I was wearing a fishnet top with like my nipples out, and with fishnet you can kind of get away with showing nipples on Instagram. You don't have to like blur it because like the AI can't figure out what's going on. And so there's just this like topless photo of me basically. And my dad had been following Naked Peach because he'd been following along and like wanting to support. And
He's a good dad.
Yeah.
my stepmom told me that he unfollowed us after he saw that picture, not because he didn't want to be supportive, but because he was like, I don't want to see if these are the photos that can be posted.
Fair.
Yeah.
I don't need to see it. But he doesn't like, he's not like ashamed of it or anything like that.
Yeah.
And he still follows me on my personal. So I'm like, I know you see some of this stuff, Dad. Like, we just don't really, you know, we don't need to talk about it.
Roll past.
Yeah, just keep going.
Keep tapping.
You know, I'm just gonna, like, try not to think about that. But,
would you ever, like, let's say dad still follow, like, would you ever be like, content warning, like, daddy, like,
yeah,
so maybe stay off the internet today, or like, would you ever do that?
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
When this shoot comes out, I might do that. Or like block him for a week or something while we're posting all the things.
Yeah, because no shade, but like, you know, my phone, I'm just like, I don't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's so supportive, and he's also like, he's like a sort of tech savvy like boomer, so he's like really on TikTok and Instagram, and I'm like, you don't need to see it all, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Context, right?
Yeah. He doesn't listen to the podcast though, and I've also told my brother, do not listen to the podcast. Like my mom, number one fan, listens to every episode. Messages me every Tuesday, lets me know what she thinks. Like, she is all over it. But I have, like, specifically told them, like, just don't listen. You know, it's not for you. You're not the audience.
Not for you.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, my family is, like, supportive, too. My dad isn't on Instagram, so I don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
He knows, like, what I do, and, like, when I first started, I showed him, like, the Naked Peach page and was, like, showing him, like, the types of photography. But then we just, like, don't really talk about my job that much. Like, we see each other a lot. We just talk about other things mostly. Mm-hmm. And then he, like, I think for him and, like, some of his friends that I just also see regularly when I see him, because we'll, like, get, like, dinners or, like, just, like, really, really close family friends, they, like, know what I do and get it, but I don't think they also, like, truly get what I do in the sense of, like, they're just, like, these, like, immigrant men from Bulgaria that are like, how is this a job? Like, I don't understand, like, what this is that you're doing, really. And I'm like, that's great. Yeah.
Maybe the best case scenario.
Totally. My mom, supportive. My stepdad, also not on Instagram, so I just don't have to necessarily worry about that. But, like, everyone knows what I do, and they're all, like, into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My grandma, when I was first telling her about it, she is in Bulgaria. Very confused. Tries to understand it, but just, like, generally confused. And then she was like, oh, it's, like
soft porn.
Oh no, she's like, oh, it's erotic. I was like, no, it's like not the word. I'm like trying to show her some like stuff about it, and she kind of gets it. But yeah, they're all supportive. I do have one aunt though who, like, I have only met a couple times in my life because she lives in like Italy now, and when we go to Bulgaria, we usually don't see her. But her daughter, my cousin, I guess, is like so hot. Basically, looks like just like Kylie Jenner. Like, she is just stunning, and that aunt hypes up all my shit. And I'm
I love that. Yeah. I have some aunts out there that like are hyping me up. Yeah. And, yeah, like those family members where I'm like, okay, you're actually like really, you're cooler than I thought you were. Like, I love when that comes out of the woodworks, you know, when you start sharing those types of things.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that. What was my other question that I had? I've already forgotten it. Oh, you guys share like behind the scenes, like in like Instagram stories, you'll share like behind the scenes and then like the final shoot. So like sometimes, or like the behind the scenes is like from an angle, or like the cellulite is on display, or like it's a little intense. Like, how do clients ever feel like, do they ever say like, hey, I don't approve of the behind the scenes, can you not post that, versus like the final product? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not getting that out very
well.
No. But yeah.
That's a good
totally
question.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So, okay, I think there's two parts to this. One, anything that ever gets posted, people have let us post. So like we never will share anything unless someone explicitly gives us permission to post it. And we always show people like the behind the scenes after the shoots and everything, so like they get to approve. Also, when people sign up for a shoot, we give them like a pre-session questionnaire where they get to answer like certain things that they do or don't want like edited in general. And so we have certain people who are like very comfortable with certain things being in photos, other people who like aren't as comfortable with it. And then there's also this level of like sometimes people will see the BTS and be like, oh, like you can post photos or like ones from like this outfit, but none of the ones that are like in this like really sheer one or, you know, something else. So we tend to really cater it towards whatever the person allows us to do.
Yeah, we have like a master Google sheet that tracks like the notes about content that can be used for every single person, and everybody like refers to that whenever we're making any type of content.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because like as a person who has not done a shoot with you guys yet, these are questions that I would want to know. I'm like, oh my God, A, is my dad going to see this and how do I handle that? B, like what if I don't like the behind the scenes? So thank you for answering for those of us who have not had the pleasure of shooting with you guys.
Well, and we do have there's a good amount of people too who just, we can't share anything ever, you know? And like those galleries are just always going to be private and like that's for them, and like RIP because we just know these like incredible photos that will never get to be like shared, but it's okay. We will move on.
It's just inspo for like the next shoot where you know the client is going to give you permission.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, like we can always block people, so we can block a specific person from Naked Peach, and then they will never see the stories, the videos, whatever. Even if you reshare it, they can't see if it's from an account that is blocked.
I didn't know that.
Okay, don't quote me. We should Google it.
We should try this.
Because I don't know 100% that it's true, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Interesting.
This is like a part of Instagram that I don't know how to use, which is like the intricacies of blocking.
Yeah. I love to block someone.
I'm grateful that I don't have like a lot of that drama in my life where I feel like I need to like keep people in my life but also block them. But I feel like that's an underutilized tool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just for like people not... I mean, I have like certain family members that I just block from my stories because I'm like, I don't need you to see like everything I'm doing at Naked Peach. Like we can be following each other, but like
that's smart.
I don't need like you to be heart eyes reacting to
you
know, that posing video of me that I reposted.
One way that the boomers like to be supportive is to heart eyes everything in your story.
Yes.
And
it's like,
bless
are you thinking about what this is that your heart eyes? This is my ass.
It's
like,
not the same as like Facebook liking things. Like,
no.
Maybe you don't have to like every part of the.
Yeah.
Bless their little heart.
I know.
Love the support, but you have like 10 messages from your mom.
Yeah, I have.
I'm speaking about my mom. I love you, Mom. So, yeah.
I have certain friends where I notice that, like, specifically guy friends, like, I have a couple guy friends who are, like, maybe, like, married to a friend of mine, and they have told me that they're like, oh, I have at this point, like, unfollowed because I was at, you know, X work event, and I opened up Instagram, and then all of a sudden, it's like the first thing I did was like, it's fine, you don't have to follow. Like, I know you're supportive, I know you mean well, you know? And then I have other guy friends who are, like, my guy friends, and I notice, and I like, it to me makes me laugh, but I notice that, like, certain things I post, there will never be a like, there will never be a comment, but then I'll, like, post something that's, like, me and Sophia, and, like, they'll like that, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, I know you're still here, but I get it. Like, it's okay.
Safe, not don't want to be this,
Yeah. But I think there is, like, this fine line with, like, even, like, a lot of my guy friends, a lot of them can be really supportive, and, like, they'll, like, tell me about, like, like, how they're excited about, you know, like, the business or, like, things we're doing, but are also not, like, creepers, which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like all the creepers are strangers.
Yes.
For the most part. Except for, like, those few family members who I had to block from my stories, but...
Bye.
It's my uncle. So those were great questions. I hope that also was helpful to other people who are listening and like having the same questions, but maybe we're too shy to ask.
Right? I mean, these are the things that, like, as a listener who hasn't done, you know, I was like truly thinking about this as somebody who wants to do a shoot with you guys. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I feel like we should get into our topic.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay.
I'm really excited to hear this.
So when we were kind of talking about what we should talk about, we were like going all over the place because it's like, do we talk about brows? Do we talk about your career journey of like, you know, doing makeup and then brows and now Camp Kramer and kind of all of these things at the same time? Or do we talk about like relationships? Like, because I've just, you know, for years gone to Megan for advice about so many things that it was like kind of hard to narrow things down. Yeah. And then I started talking about like how when I think about what I've learned from you, like one of the biggest things is like that I feel like you've taught me is to just like try things and to like sort of like take risks with like learning new things and like be willing to just kind of like, I don't know, be open to discovering like new parts of yourself. And like it's just been really helpful for me to have like this sort of like big sister figure in my life who like is like, yeah, I'm a runner now and I have never ran before in my life, and like see that that's possible, because I feel like when you see someone in your life doing that kind of thing, like just trying something totally new, like it makes you realize that like you can try new things too, you know? So
yeah, okay. Gosh, where should I start? I don't even know where to start with that. Oh my gosh.
Well, I feel like you were telling me that it was sort of like, it sort of had to do with like sobriety, right? Like,
oh,
and
yeah.
What am I supposed to do with my time now?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that touch tone. Yeah. So I am 38 years old for the listeners who don't know me, and I just celebrated 20 years of sobriety. So that's a long time. So I was 18 when I got sober. And so for, you know, so in the early years of sobriety, it's typically, it's like anything you can do to kind of like keep yourself busy. So it was drinking a lot of coffee, staying up really late, playing card games, like getting into like bullshit with boys and, you know, whatever. But like after a little while, it's like not drinking, not doing drugs is not an activity. Like you've got to develop some, like what else are you going to do with your time? If you're going to stay, like kind of, you just got to start having more to do. And obviously like that is growing up and like getting jobs and careers and like learning your interests and things. But like, I remember being, I don't know, I want to say like, I'm going to relate this to sobriety because that's the only time the way I can kind of chronologically put it. I think I was about 8 years sober, and I was talking with my sponsor, and we were just talking about like, who the hell am I? Like, I don't know who, like, just kind of, I don't want to say identity crisis, but like, how does one find hobbies or things that they like to do? And especially without being sort of, for those of us like having dabbled in toxic relationships, without being like led by your boyfriend and like being like, well, his friends are my friends, and so I go where they go and I listen to their fucking band, and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have the biggest eye rolls right now. So, you know, as a person in my mid-20s, and I was like, who am I? What do I do now? And sort of like that self-discovery. So like, I know that on the podcast you guys have mentioned like the artist's way. That was something that I've done. And then there's just been like an organic dabbling, and there's I think something in my personal nature of like, I'm a crafter by nature. I've always been, as a little young child, like I love to like arts and crafts and like making shit and doing stuff, and I do stuff with my hands. So making space in my adult life to get back to that kind of freedom of like trying things out without an attachment to what the results may or may not be. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
Let's see, a huge pivotal piece. You mentioned running. So pivotal piece of just absolutely changed the trajectory of my life was learning to run. So as a kid, running was like a punishment for gymnastics. Like that was something I did. There was like, oh my God, running is horrible. I would rather like do anything else than run a mile. And so in my mid-20s, I was like searching for something physical, for something. I wanted to work out. I wanted to feel stronger. I was like, you know, and I discovered running on the Wii. Do you guys know this Nintendo, like the little Wii?
Yeah, but I didn't know they had running. I remember like golf.
Oh my God,
golf.
That's so embarrassing.
Or
okay,
ping pong.
But they had a running one because I was embarrassingly like I was, you know, just searching for the thing that like you could kind of burn the most calories with,
of course, yeah,
as you do. So I had the little handheld thing, and you make a little person that looks kind of like you, and you like run along a little like on your TV screen. So I'm like in my basement apartment, barefoot, like jogging in place, like trying to do this. But what it's so interesting. So like what it taught me was to slow down, that like running didn't have to be like sprinting to the point of like hating it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was like, slow down to any pace that you could maintain. And then it would like give you like encouraging. They're like, you're doing a good job being even in your pace. And I was like, thank you, Nintendo. And so like, even though I was going so slow, it like taught me how, and then I was like, oh, I can do this a lot longer and it's less awful when I slow down. And so I was like, oh, and I kind of kept doing it because afterward I was like, I kind of felt good a little bit. Like, and then 3 minutes, literally, it started off with 3 minutes, turned into like 10, 20, 30 minutes. And I was talking to a coworker of mine. She ran marathons and stuff. I knew that. So I mentioned it to her. I was like, I think maybe I want to like run outside. Like, I think I maybe want to like go outside. And she was like, absolutely, you need some running shoes. And so I went and got some running shoes and started off kind of the same way. So without my Nintendo, like giving me like encouraging words every 35 seconds, I went outside and but tried to keep that same like idea. And the other thing that the Nintendo did was it made like a clicking kind of sound, like gave you sort of like a cadence thing. So I learned how to like pace myself a little bit. So I just started by running a little bit, and it was much harder outside. But I did a little bit at a time. And then before you know it, I was like, I could run 30 minutes without stopping. Slow AF, and still like, do not call me a jogger. Like, I'm a runner, okay? It doesn't matter how slow you're going. If you want to be a runner, you're a runner. Then after that, like ran or told my same coworker, I said, I want to run like a 5K. And she gave me a running plan for a marathon. She like returned back with like, here's how you're going to run a marathon, but we can start with like a 10K and you can. So I had this plan, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I've never even, what are you talking about? And she was like, you just follow the plan. Shout out to Carrie. If you're listening, I love you dearly. But she gave me this running plan, and she was just like, you just start at the beginning and you just follow it day by day. So sobriety taught me how to be good at following instructions. Like, I just do what I'm told to do and I show up, and like, I learned how to have faith in someone else having a little bit of faith in me. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
Like, she knows what she's talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. But if she thinks I can do this, then I guess I could do that. Mm-hmm. So I just showed up. I, like, followed her little calendar plan. And I ran my first marathon, like, a few months later.
A full marathon. Not even the 5K.
Well, yeah, I did that. That was just part of training, right? So then I did a 10K. And then I did a half marathon as part of my plan to run a marathon. And I ran a marathon. And I cried at the end. I walked a ton. But it was, like, that moment of I finished this marathon, and I was like, well, if I'm not the kind of person who hates running, if I'm somebody who can run a marathon, and I never ever would have put that in a definition of myself. So like, talk about the opposite of like identity crisis. It was like the opposite thing of like, well, then who else am I? If I'm not this person, then who else could I be? Mm-hmm. If all these things I've told myself about me, if all my stories are potentially not true, then like it all goes out the window.
Totally.
Do you know what I mean?
It's like if I can do this, what else can I do?
What else can I do? Because this like Megan doesn't run. This was like a truth I had told about myself. I'm sure I had heard it about myself from family members. Like, oh, you're not built like a runner. You're not really a runner. You're this kind of thing, not that kind of thing. We all have this, and it's really common. And as a parent now, I try really hard not to like do that to my children. It's really hard not to, because as humans, that's what we do. But like, I know I've heard that from a young age. So like from very young, I was like, I'm not a runner. That's not what I do. Therefore, I can't find joy in that. Turns out I'm a runner, and I love long distance running, like really long distance.
Have you done an ultra marathon?
I have done a couple of ultra marathons. Yeah. So so Carrie, after I finished my marathon, I think she saw like the little twinkle in my eye. Like right when I first met her, she had just done her very first Ironman, and she was in her early 50s at the time, and she did her first Ironman. And so she saw the twinkle in my eye of like, I really liked that. I think she saw the crazy in me, and she was like, hey, do you want to run this 40-mile trail run with me next April? So it was almost a year later, and I just answered yes. Like, I didn't even think. I just answered yes. And then I was like, throw up. Like, I can't believe I just said yes to this. But I also knew, I was like, training for a 5K is the exact same as training for a marathon. You just keep going. What if I kept going? Mm-hmm. And there are things that get in the way, training for running. It's all about like getting to the start line. Like whatever happens on race day is like whatever, but like you gotta did not expect to be talking about running right now, by the way.
It totally makes sense, though, because I feel like it's kind of the beginning of your trying things journey.
It altered me. It altered me the way that, like, sobriety altered me. Running, learning this about myself altered me forever. Mm-hmm. And it changed how I think about challenges, things I know about myself, identity, things I ascribe to my identity. It's like the metaphor through which, like, everything gets filtered through that now, through running. So yeah, so a year later, I ran 40 miles with her, and it was so hard. I came in last. I was the last person to finish that race. Dead last. But in any race, there are always people who don't finish.
Yeah.
True.
People with far more experience than I did not finish.
Yeah.
And I finished last. It took me a long fucking time. It took me all day to run 40 miles.
Yeah.
And then a year later, I did it again. And then in the following years, I trained for a few and had injuries that just kind of, like, stopped me from getting to the starting line. But, you know, so, like, I've run really, really long training runs. Like, I've run a marathon many, many times just as a training run. And just, like, we used to say, Carrie and I used to say, like, we run marathons on Tuesdays. Like, that's just, like, what we do on Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know, it's like our long run day. So anyways, bring me back to what I'm supposed to be talking about, because now I'm, like, talking about running.
No, you're
like,
fine.
what am I doing?
Where and you're like just doing things and, like, basically just, like, putting yourself out there and doing it without knowing, like, what's gonna happen.
Yeah. So I've had this experience since I started running, and since I ran my first marathon, where, like, I've had this experience talking to people who, like, aren't runners, and I'll be mentioning, like, oh, I just ran 10 miles this morning or whatever, and people are like, oh my God, I could never. And I'm like, you know, listen, here I was with a little wee in my basement thinking I was, like, convinced I would have rather done anything. If there's, like, recordings of me saying things, you know, if there's recordings of ourselves, right, throughout our whole lives, there's recordings of me saying, like, I would rather be, like, shot in the face than run a marathon. And I know that sounds like really, I try not to talk, like, violent speak, but, like, no, but really, like, the thing I thought I would never do is that, right? So if that's now not true about me,
and that's, like, something you love now.
Now it's
like,
something
what else
that
could you be wrong about?
Now it's like a big part of who I am. Like, I can do really hard things. I can train for things that take a long time. I can, you know, I just, like, there's many, many, many lessons within that. But, like, that's the big takeaway is, like, well, nothing is not on the table anymore.
Totally.
So, in fact, I'm going to bring it back around to boudoir for just a second. Yes. So the only, like, boudoir shoot I've ever done, I was 27 years old, and I distinctly remember it. I was 27 years old, and I had run 27 miles the day before that shoot. And
you were probably so sore. Or no, you weren't.
Tell you, listen, no one told me. I've heard you guys talk about this. Don't work out, like, the day of your shoot or, like, the day before.
Your calves. Your poor calves.
I was just, like, hungry and, like, so I was, like, shaking. Like, it was it was because that was the longest run I'd ever done, but it made it really memorable. And I remember even still, like, thinking back to the day getting those photos taken and being like, oh my God, this, that, like, I could still, you know, but I will always look at those photos no matter what I feel about them or anything. I can just, and be like, I was 27 and I ran 27 miles the day before. And this is capturing a moment, like, no matter what, like, photos capture truth, like, in time.
That's such a cool memory.
Yeah.
I love that.
It is really cool. And, like, I have that forever now, you know?
Okay, so that was the catalyst.
That was my big catalyst that altered me.
Okay.
Wait, actually, before we transition into that, can I just, like, have something I want to say about, like, this whole thing?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, just, like, a couple thoughts, because I hadn't really thought about the sobriety aspect of it and how that kind of, like, almost prepares you to, like, do something else, but it totally makes sense, because it's like, when you get sober, you know, you've lived your whole life being like, I don't ever want to be sober, and then you have to make this fundamental change in how you spend all your time, and then eventually you realize, like, oh, I can live a totally different life than the one I was living. So I guess that, like, I hadn't really thought much about how that is, like, it kind of conditions you to then make these other changes, which makes sense. It just goes to show how long it's been since I've been to a fucking meeting. Like, there's probably a lesson in there. But the other thing I wanted to say is just, so I started running because I saw Megan running. And it was like, well, if Megan's doing that, I'm going to do it too. Me and my best friend.
Trendsetter.
Yeah. Me and my best friend from college decided to also run a marathon. And we were like, well, we're going to do this too. And I feel like I kind of did it for the wrong reasons, like in retrospect, but it was like I had a very similar experience where it was like I've always told myself this story about how I'm like not athletic, I'm not coordinated, like I can't do certain things, and then like lo and behold, you just fucking follow the plan and you can do it, you know, and you just take it a day at a time. Yeah.
Exactly. It's sobriety is day at a time. Working, like anything is like, it's bite-sized stuff, and they don't all have to be perfect. Like not all days or not all workouts are going to be perfect. Some runs you feel like $1,000,000, and some you're like, well, that is time I can't get back. You know, like it's just, but you just like little at a time, and it compounds. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and it's like nobody is like goes from like, okay, day one I decide I want to be a runner to like tomorrow I'm running a marathon. It's like, you know, there's all this stuff you do in between.
Yes.
And it's the same with getting sober. Like, you know, you like, yes, obviously there is a day you're not sober and then a day that you're sober, but you don't feel good about it the first day. It like takes a long time to be like, okay, I'm living sober now and I feel good about it.
Or if you are one of those people, because we've met those people who are like really excited in the beginning, and you're like, your day is coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Hold on. We'll be here when you're ready for the ugly stuff. Yeah, and you know, the thing being comfortable with being uncomfortable, like getting comfortable with discomfort, is getting intimate with your own like failures and not letting them like stop you from carrying on. You know, you have to have like a stick to itness.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that book I mentioned, that Brave Not Perfect book that you ended up reading.
Totally.
Where
I've heard about this.
Yeah, where they talk about just girls and boys, how they're like raised and socialized, and like girls are always taught to be perfect, boys are taught to be brave, and part of the bravery is just like try things, fail at them, but then just like keep trying and like persevere and do it, and eventually it's like you're gonna get good. But girls, because of the socialization, end up not like, basically they stop trying because they just, if they want to do it, they want to do it perfect, and if they're not going to do it perfect, they just don't do it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so much about that. I relate so much to that too.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't want to try anything if I don't think I'm going to like be all right, or at least look like I know what I'm doing.
Yes.
It's
certainly.
Scary.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like even with photography, like there's been so many of my fears just through my journey of posting stuff, but then I'll post something that it's like I don't maybe necessarily feel like it's, especially when we were like first learning, right? I'm like I like am excited, but I'm also like, this isn't what this other photographer I'm seeing on Instagram is doing that's like has 12 years of experience, you know, whatever it might be. But people like, other people love watching other people's journeys, you know? So it's funny because like we're all so scared to share, but then when my friend tells me about something new they're doing, I'm so into whatever I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like I can't even do a fraction of that. Like you're already so much better than me at, you know, X thing. But
yeah, there's something like really captivating about like watching someone transform because, well, I think it reminds you that that's possible.
Yes.
And it's just like, yeah, it's like, it's so much more interesting to see someone's like journey of learning to do something than to just be like, oh, that person's an expert and they can just do everything. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I like seeing the journey. I think it's way more interesting.
Not being good at something immediately is not a deterrent for me in really anything anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is literally such a gift because I just feel like, I don't know. I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this on the podcast is because I feel like we constantly hear this from our audience, our followers, our like clients, like people being like, I don't know how you guys do XYZ. I could never do that. And it's like, you can. All these things you think you can't do, you absolutely can.
Yeah. And I think some of it is having access and paying attention to people sharing their process. Of like learning what that really looks like.
Tell us a little bit about like how this has benefited you in your career.
So I'm an esthetician. So like my job is esthetician, which is skincare and but specifically for me, it's eyebrows. That's what I love to do. For a long time, I also did makeup too, and did body waxing, and also did facials. And when I first graduated from beauty school, when I was 22, I think that's how long it was ago, it was a different time, you know, in beauty. Eyebrows were not something that people could like specialize in. That wasn't a job. People doing that just like wasn't really a thing. I was really told like you kind of have to be able to do everything. So and I kind of wanted to. I'm a girl with lots of hobbies, so I like to do everything. So I was like, oh, I really love doing makeup, and I really want to do this, and I want to be the best body waxer ever, you know. And I think that by trying lots of things, you find out what you maybe have a natural proclivity to and what you are good at because you worked really hard at it. So like I did learn how to do a pretty good Brazilian. I did learn how to do, like, I did enjoy like what touching people's faces and giving them like a good facial, what that does for me and what that does for them. I love the results of doing makeup. I love I do think I have a natural, actually, I think I have a natural talent for makeup. But what I found is that I can do eyebrows all day long and it doesn't drain me. So like I've put the work into being kind of good at those other skills. But what I found is over time, like I was just tired at work or I was so drained at the end of the day. But I found that, by doing thousands and thousands of eyebrows and really honing in on the skill of just being good at it, that I can do that all day long, and I feel like I have like more life in me at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, have you read a book called Range?
No.
Okay.
I love how many nonfiction books you've read. It's
all
really
I read is
impressive.
nonfiction, yeah.
I haven't been reading much lately, I'm telling you.
No, it's fine. I need to like get past this because I have this problem where I feel like I really love reading fiction, but when I feel like when I sit down to read fiction, I feel like I shouldn't be doing it because I'm like, if I'm reading, I need to be doing something to like better myself.
It's not productive to read fiction, yeah.
Which is not good, and I'm recently have been trying to change it a little bit. I just finished my first spicy novel last night, so that was really fun.
I want to hear about that.
Yeah, but Range is literally, a lot of what you're saying was in that book, and he talks a lot about, let's say, like athletes or just very like accomplished people, but he just goes into all these studies that show people who spend more of their time doing a variety of things eventually will get better at like the one thing that they do eventually specialize in, because they've built all these skills that then help them get good at that one thing. Whereas if you just from the very, very beginning are focused, like laser focused on this one thing, you likely won't be as good, because if you need to like adjust or do something else, you don't have other experiences to draw upon to help you with that pretty much. And it's like super fascinating. He goes into like athletes and other people who, maybe like grew up doing every single sport, and then it wasn't until they were like 16 that they did like tennis or whatever it might be, and then like all of a sudden they got really good at that, but a lot of the other skills from like basketball or soccer or whatever like helped them with whatever they were doing. It's fascinating. Anyway, it's exactly what you're saying.
That sounds like you said it better than I just did, actually. You just told that right down to what it is. Yes, I think that's true. Not only was it not like for my profession, like it wasn't, specializing in eyebrows wasn't even an option back then.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was now obviously like, if you're paying attention to the beauty world, like eyebrows are a fucking thing. But I feel like I kind of came up in my career during that time. So I was sort of there and sort of in my own personal world built that within my own career. But I don't think I would have learned all of that. I think that, like being a really good makeup artist makes me a much better brow artist.
I'm sure, yeah.
There are brow artists that I see out there that I'm like, I can tell that you don't do makeup. I can just tell that you don't see faces this way, or that you don't know how to, like, you're not reading your clients' cues, right?
Yeah.
Making people feel comfortable. There's just something I'm like, I can tell that you're a body waxer. Like, that's what you do. And you also sometimes do a brow. I can just tell sometimes what they have spent their time really doing. It's also really important to like let go of the shit that isn't serving you. I love that you talked about like you're not really running right now. I'm not really running right now either. And some of it is just because I just haven't been feeling like it. Mm-hmm. And being like, that's okay. I also know I can pick it up again if I want to, because I've done that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to but I've also had to let go of like, if I'm not running an ultra marathon, then like, what am I even doing? And like, can I even call myself a runner if I don't run? And it's like, well, things have changed. Like my body has changed. My life has changed. My time has changed.
You've had 2 kids.
I've had 2 kids. My priorities in how, like speaking of like, reading a fiction book when you could be learning, it's like, every time I'm doing one thing, I'm not doing laundry, or if I'm not working on this part of this one business, then I'm neglecting this part of this business. So like there's always, I saw this quote recently from Shonda Rhimes,
Love her.
Shonda Land.
Yeah.
And she's talking about, I wish I could quote it. I'll try to find it. But she was talking about how like every time you see her like succeeding at all these things, she's also failing at like 10 things in her life.
Yeah.
So like, currently like, I own 2 businesses or co-own 2 businesses, and I have 2 kids and I, doing all this stuff. So like, yeah, I'm always neglecting laundry while I'm working on the social media for one business. I'm always, I'm showing up here and I'm, I'm not working out. There's always something that you're making these choices about how you spend your time. And when you are dedicated to like trying to find a lot of range in your life, and like for me, that's filling like there's so many things I want to learn how to do. There's so many new crafts I want to fucking try, and finding a container in your life for that is so important. But like also realizing that there's going to be other stuff that just you cannot fit all of it. You're not going to do it all.
Yeah.
And that being okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is hard. I mean, I think like that's the other side of like the whole thing is like the perfectionism and like wanting to like be the best at everything. And you mentioned like the taking a break from running and like knowing when like it's time to like set something aside or something isn't serving you. Like I feel like there's a big thing of like shoulding ourselves, like, oh, yeah. Well, I should be running 50 miles a week if I want to be a runner, or I should be putting, 2 hours a day into practicing this thing, or, Malcolm Gladwell says it takes 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, just, I don't know, like I feel like I've heard like a more eloquent way of being like, don't should yourself, but I can't think of like what the saying is right now. But it's like, it doesn't ever really serve us to be like, okay, I'm going to come up with this like sort of arbitrary rule for myself of how I should be doing it, and then if I can't do it that way, then I'm just not going to do it at all, or I don't know. I feel like I derailed us a little bit with that one, but
that's okay.
No, it's very true, and I feel like it's exactly what you were just saying. It's like it is all a trade-off. I'm going to send this clip to this person when I say this, but one of my really good friends and old coworker, Joel, had this amazing analogy so he's a product manager, and he had this amazing analogy with all the projects we always work on where, like, what are they even called? People that do like music stuff and the things that go like this. Like
a conductor?
No, like the little
producer?
Like a producer?
A producer, yeah. They're like the buttons on the thing, and they like are all levels.
They
whatever.
know about the levels.
Yes,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he had a visual of that, and he was basically like, these are all the projects we're working on. And instead of thinking about, like, this one needs to go to 100 and be done, and this one needs to go to... It's like, every day we're, like, doing things to each of these that are, like, making them go. And some days it's, like, one of these might go a little bit higher. Like, another one's going to go higher. But, like, the goal is that they're all going to get to the top eventually. And we're, like, prioritizing things based on which ones need to have attention certain days or whatever, And, like, the goal is, like, to go from, the bottom 30% to now, like, they're all going to be, like, at 60% in X amount of time or something, but I feel like that's what we do with our lives every day. And you have to, because there's no other way to do it unless you're like, I'm going to just neglect X thing officially. And then maybe it's time to say goodbye to that thing from your life, for a little while.
Absolutely. I really love that visual too of like, all of these things are on the board.
Yeah.
Right. All of your things, all your little levels need to get up there, because we're all probably doing if we think about it that way, we're all probably doing a pretty great job.
Yeah.
But how many of us feel like we're just like, fucking sucking every day at all things neglected, and we're really like, we're probably all killing it, a little bit. And I think that's the other skill that doesn't get praised enough, of like learning when to let certain things go, like learning when to be like, I really want to be running, but like I just don't have the time right now, and I don't have the desire, or the time and desire don't line up at the right time, therefore it has to just, I can just be like, well, that's okay. Like, that's not going to serve the rest of these things if I'm beating myself up about this thing. Or like, I'll talk about knitting for a second, because I learned how to knit from my grandmother, and I'm like a lifelong bad knitter. That's just like how I knit. I've gotten better. I have eventually learned to knit sweaters, and I think I have had it in my mind that like, for like a long time, like I'm going to become like somebody who knits like a really great sweater. Every time I see somebody who's like excellent at knitting online, I'm like, I want to fucking make that sweater. I can make that. And the truth is like, I have never has the desire to do that, and the drive to put in the work to be that good at the thing, to make the finished product as good as I want it to be, ever lined up at the right time. Maybe I'll still become a great knitter. Listen, I'm only 38. Yeah. But currently I have to just be like, you know what? I'm just going to allow myself to like buy the expensive sweater, because I know how much time it takes to make knitting look good. And sweaters are worth their money, let me tell you, because knitting is fucking hard to do correctly. And if you're gonna make a really good sweater, like, I don't know, you don't have time I don't think you have time to do a lot of other things. And I'm a girl with like too many other hobbies.
I love it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I'm just gonna sewing.
I'm gonna oh my god, sewing. Sewing is a thing that's been on I've had a sewing machine in my basement for 20 years. I pulled it out. I made my kids some costumes. They looked adorable. Is my sewing good? No. Do I want to make stuff? Yes. Am I willing to put the time into doing that? I guess not, because I keep putting the machine back in my bed. I keep being like a little intimidated, so I'm like, you know what? I'm just not there yet with sewing. I am a as needed bad sewer. I am a mediocre knitter who will do it occasionally for 3 months straight and do nothing else, and then like not look at it for 3 years. You know what I mean? Like, that's okay, because I'm doing other stuff. Yeah. And that's okay. It's great.
Yeah. And like, I mean, imagine if you were like, I'm not gonna make my kids costumes because I'm just like I'm not good enough at sewing. I'm not a master seamstress.
Seamstress. Seems
God,
why was
that so hard?
This is the
best. And then you buy your kids some store costumes, and then you wouldn't have that memory of those cute costumes.
No shade to buying your costumes, because listen, if you need to buy your kids costumes from a plastic thing, that's fine. Because let me tell you, I've worked real hard on those costumes, and like, do they love them? Yeah, but like, do they appreciate them the way that I do?
I mean, you're going to make them give those costumes to their kids when they grow up someday.
Yes. But I'm also like deeply ashamed of them because I know how bad they're constructed. But here's the thing. So
it's a complicated
So during Halloween, I pulled out my sewing machine. I'm like making these costumes with no pattern, having zero experience in sewing, other than like my grandmother body shaming me for like, a week one summer when I was 12 trying to learn how to make a dress, and then I put my sewing machine away. So like that was my experience sewing. And then I pulled it out and I was like, I'm going to make these costumes from scratch with no pattern. So I post about it online because I like need a lot of validation. Yeah. And because I think it's fun. People like to see a process.
Yeah,
right?
I love it. I was so invested in this journey.
I've never had more engagement in my life from social anything than like when I post about like every little step of the way with these costumes, like me trying to like troubleshoot like a thing that I probably could if I just followed a pattern. Like I could have maybe worked around this, but instead I'm like, I'm gonna figure it out myself. I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna do this with no knowledge. I'm just gonna figure this out. And it was so fun. And honestly, what I felt like I was teaching myself, the world, maybe the world, my kids specifically, is that you don't have to be good at something to still enjoy doing it.
Yeah. You
don't have to be a fast runner. You don't have to be good at sewing to still pull out your sewing machine and like want to whip up a costume, and how to problem solve. Like, you see little kids do this. I know my 5-year-old does this a lot. She'll like start trying to do something and then she's like, I can't do it. Oh, I can't do it. And just like totally wants to just like throw the thing across the room. And like what I feel like I'm showing her by making this costume and never being good at sewing the way I would like to be, is that like, oh, I made a mistake. Well, let's pull that out. Let's problem solve. Let's see what we have to fix this. Let's try to like work with the mistake, let's figure it out. And that is something that perfectionist quality in a lot of us keeps us from digging a little further, trying a little bit more, Mm-hmm. And ultimately for having a perfectly good costume that was really cute. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if I'd stopped and like been like, well, I can't figure out how to attach this tail, to this dragon costume, like I wouldn't have an adorable costume that was perfectly fine. Yeah. Even though it was riddled with mistakes.
I love it.
Don't look closely at us.
This is making me think of something. This is making me think of Brene Brown. And this might be like getting too into it, but like she always talks about how like shame is like the thing that kind of keeps us from connecting with other people, and it like keeps us like alone. And I feel like that's like where the perfectionism thing ties in, where it's like if you tell yourself like, I can't do this well yet because I'm bad, because there's something wrong with me, and you don't just like accept it as like part of the fucking process, then like that's when like the shame comes in, and you don't share it on your story and get 20 people responding to you giving you sewing advice, or you don't like get to like laugh about it and like like sit there with your kid and like problem solve, and like you just like miss out on all this stuff if like the shame is like the thing that kind of dictates like what you do next, you know?
100%. Absolutely. And you also rob yourself of the opportunity to like learn stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like learning keeps us like young, keeps our minds agile. Like I love knowing that like at every single day, whether I'm like having a high day or a low day, like I'm always feeling like there's just not enough hours in the day. There's just so many things I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that I feel like is maybe one of my best qualities.
Yes.
You know, like I'm not bored ever. I've got
Yes.
things I would like to do.
Yes.
Give me 5 minutes, like I'm doing something.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I'm also wasting lots of time on TikTok.
Aren't we all?
Let me just say, it's not all. Just because I have things I want to do doesn't mean I'm.
The worst is
All
like,
big distraction, you know, for
That's
your
fine.
break. Like,
I also need to do that.
yeah.
it's like when you have an hour, you're like, oh, I have an hour. And then all of a sudden you get on TikTok, you're like, well, now I have
It's
20
like,
minutes.
now I don't have an hour. Yeah. No, that time is gone. Literally me last night, I was like, wow, I'm going to get in bed before 9:30. Like, look at me go. All of a sudden it's 10:30 and I've been in the same spot, like just in bed, but not in my pajamas yet because I'm like on TikTok. And
Because we're like waiting for the one to be like, that was either satisfying enough or like that was the cue to get off. But like, I'm not sure ever what. And then if the guy comes up that's like, hey, you've been on here too long. I'm like, oh, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm like, that, like I'm fully defiant against that.
100%.
I thought I was the only person that's ever seen that guy.
Those bitches
No.
are always
Okay.
coming for me. I can't with them. I'll tell them when I've had enough.
Yeah. You don't tell me when to get off TikTok.
Get out of here. I'm learning. And also, no shame in TikTok because like I fucking straight up learned from TikTok.
Same.
Yes.
Thank God for TikTok.
Oh my God, the mushroom stool tutorial that I saved a couple weeks ago. I cannot wait to make that
What
thing.
is this?
Okay, have you seen these? Like, I feel like they're just like very trendy and
Oh
home
yes,
decor
I
right
want to
now.
make. Of course, I want to make that.
Of course, you've seen it too. You probably have the same ones.
I am on that TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like these type of like poof things, but it has more of like a mushroom top, you know?
Okay.
And then you can like decorate it with whatever, you can upholster it on your own. Like there's these tutorials of people that are making these from scratch and
They're
upholstering
so
them.
cute.
Cute.
It's such a cute little ottoman situation.
Yeah.
Is he going to come here in the podcast studio?
I was going to do it for the living room, but I can make one for the podcast studio too if the first
Yeah.
one goes well. We'll see.
My toxic trait is I think I can make that.
Yeah.
one of my toxic traits.
Yeah.
And it's my best quality, right? Because
Yes.
I'm like, oh, I can try this. Like, I think I can kind of do anything, but like, but not always very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I find out like too, like, oh my gosh, speaking of trying things on Halloween. So I sewed these costumes for my kids and then they wanted to be dragons, right? And then they wanted my husband and I to be dragon eggs. And I'm like, yeah, totally. Paper mache, chicken wire. Yeah, I can do this. Painting this. Listen, I had a blast sewing. Touching paper mache gives me like dry heave qualities. Like it's so dry. Like I hated it. I hate touching chicken wire. I don't want to do it. It feels like not my business. I hate paper mache. I hated wearing. Every part of me wanted to give up on these so badly. The only reason I didn't trash these things and was like they were like taking over my dining room table. They didn't look like dragon eggs. I looked so stupid. But I didn't want to give up because I'm like, my kids were, you know, like, you're a dragon. Like, they were happy. But I learned, hey, paper mache, not for me. I don't like that medium. It isn't for me. I'm more of a fiber arts kind of a girl.
Yeah. Well, and
Can't
you
do
know
this.
that because you tried.
Because I tried
Yes.
it and
Yes.
I finished my project.
Yes.
And I don't have any shame about finishing, right? Or not finishing.
Yeah.
That's something I've learned to do. Like, I've learned how to stick with it enough to be like, I'm going to get through this project and then I'm never doing this again.
Yeah.
If it has chicken wire, I don't want it.
Yeah.
You know? So, I
Wow.
feel like that leads me a little bit into Camp Kramer. If it's
Yes,
time,
yeah.
time to
How
talk
did
about
let's
that.
okay,
get-
I don't
do
think
it.
I've ever heard the story of how like you guys truly got started. So I'm excited to hear this.
Yeah, so I really wish Chantel was here. She's my sister-in-law. She's married to my brother, and whoa, back it up. Okay, so my brother is an artist. He's a fine artist. So growing up, I've always like, I'm not an artist. I'm not an artist. Even though like clearly I'm crafty. I love to make stuff. Like oh, it's cute.
Yeah.
So I've been a lifelong crafter, and so has Chantel, and I call her Telly a lot. My kids call her Telly.
Oh,
So
cute.
if I call, that's Telly. But she also same. She's really into like paper art and like she makes like beautiful like greeting cards and stuff. Anyway, so she and I are always kind of on our own paths, like we're kind of crafty kids. And then in the last few years, we'd get together and we would chat about, like, we would be doing our nails together, that kind of thing. Like, there's always something kind of artistic that we're kind of bonding over. And in 2021, I'm kind of over my sourdough phase, or I'm like, it's dwindling a little bit for me because, like, again, it takes a lot of time. You have to baby that thing. I don't know. I want to know how your sourdough is going.
Yeah.
By the way.
We'll get into that.
But we started beading together, right? So, like, we were following some other really amazing artists out there who were, like, making these kind of beading bracelets trends. We were just kind of, like, tagging each other on Instagram posts, like, inspiration. And so we did, like, a beach trip every year. And that summer, we just brought a bunch of beads and we're like, let's bead together. Let's do that. Like, that's going to be our thing that we do instead of doing our nails or something. And we just started, like, really going to town. And we were having so much fun. And it was one of those things where, having been, like, a lifelong crafting dabbler, like I said, like, I have this idea that I'm going to knit the next best sweater, and it's a lumpy mess.
Yeah.
This is the opposite experience where, like, I had this idea for how I want these beaded pieces to turn out, and they were, like, they weren't necessarily exactly what was in my head, but it was turning out the way I was imagining it in a way, or, like, what I intentioned. I was like, ooh, this feels like I'm onto something. Like, I'm really tapping into, the results are matching my desire, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, it feels natural. It's coming out really easily. And we were both just doing this together, and we're just, like, rolling off each other. We can't stop making beater. We're, like, by the end of this beach trip, we have made everybody in our lives something. I have made bracelets for 10 kids at preschool and their teachers. Like, we kind of can't stop. And we're also like, we need more beads. Like, we don't have enough stuff, and we don't want to stop. But, like, this shit gets expensive.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're like, this is really fun. We're going to buy some new stuff. And then we're getting together every time we can after this beach trip to, like, bead some more. And one day I was wearing a piece of mine at work doing brows, and one of my clients was like, oh my God, I love your bracelet. And I'm like, I made it. And she was like, really? Oh my God, like, you should sell that. And I'm like, funny, I was kind of thinking maybe, I mean, I don't know, like, who am I? I'm a bad knitter. Like, what is this? Like, this is just a thing I'm doing for fun. But she said that, and I was like, I'll just see, you know? So I talked to Chantel about it, and we just, like, made an Instagram account. I posted a picture of it, like a bad photo, just like a snapshot, no editing, in my hand. And someone bought it, like, within, like, I don't know, like 20 minutes. It was that same client who mentioned it. So she saw it and was like, I want that. I don't think it was the same bracelet, but she was like, oh my God, I want that.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, you didn't tell me you didn't tell me you had done other stuff. She just saw the one I was wearing, right? So I started posting, and then my friends, of course, and friends and clients were following, and then within, like, a day or so, I had, like, a couple of custom orders come in, and then, like, Hannah asked us to make bracelets for her wedding, and I was like, oh my God, like, that was, like, one of our first things that we did, and we were
really?
like,
I didn't know
shut
that.
the fuck up. That was one of our early things that we ever did and sold, so we were like, oh my God. So then we were like, okay, so now we need to buy more beads, like, obviously. So it just started, like, feeding itself. So, like, everything hit, like, we were selling something, and we went back in and we could buy more. And suddenly we were, like, doing more, and, like, it was growing, and it felt just, like, really organic, and we just kind of didn't want to stop.
Yeah.
And then we started kind of, like, being like, you know what's really, really fun and what we really wanted to do is do resin work. Like, I really want to make, like, this looks really fun. Like, and it just, so Camp Kramer was born, and we were, like, kind of, we were smart in that we gave it this like, camp craft, like, this is the kind of thing you would do at camp, summer camp kind of a thing, or with your friends doing a sleepover, like, that's the kind of vibe it is. And within that container, I think I mentioned that word earlier, like, the container of Camp Kramer, there's just, like, a lot of room to, like, pivot and, like, try new things. Like, it doesn't have to be just beads, it doesn't have to be just resin. And I have found, like, my ultimate, like, space to try lots of stuff. Like, shit, macrame could be in there in the future. I don't know. Like, I feel like it just has so much room to be, to adjust with our customers, with what we really want to do. Ultimately, it's a self-serving, like, little enterprise that we just were like, we just need a place to help fund our own crafting habits.
Yeah.
And that's really where it started. And then it started turning into like a legitimate business. We opened up our Etsy account, like a shop, a few months later. Now we're a year and a half in, and we like are chugging along. We're an LLC, and again, it's like the most satisfying. It's the anti-me knitting, like it's incredibly satisfying. I feel like I've tapped into the right kind of, whether it's my ADHD or not, like the right type of crafty art that suits my skills. Like I'm in my pocket, you know what I mean? I mean, I found my niche similar to like say eyebrows, where like within this wide range, I found a way to like keep me interested in it too, which is also like having clients. So there's times where like I'm like not feeling it, but I'm like, oh, but I have this customer who's, requested this. Like I've got to sit down and make this, because I could easily kind of like wander off and leave beading aside, but Camp Kramer keeps me sort of grounded to it. So it's kind of amazing because it's kept me with it long enough to actually let it kind of blossom. Does that make sense? Like let my skills grow. Let me tell you, resin is not for the faint of heart. It is so hard to learn. There's a very steep learning curve. It's expensive. It's fucking messy. And we have a whole box, like a big shoe box in our lab of, we call it the bad box. It's just like all of our shit that like stuff did not turn out well.
Yeah.
It's garbage. It is ugly. It has turned out horrible. We're embarrassed. We call it the bad box, and we love to like sometimes like look at it and be like, oh, look at this bad stuff. Look at all these bad pieces of art that like no one should ever see.
We should make a bad folder of all the bad photos we've ever taken.
It's like when we talk about our first shoot that we did. Yeah.
It's like that, because you can't let those things keep you from like trying again. Like learn something from it, move on. And even like when you think you're like getting good at something, like it's good to kind of have something challenge you and have some like, oh my god, we were making a keychain for you guys for one of your clients.
Oh yeah, just so that people know, like, so Camp Kramer does our Naked Peach keychain.
Yes.
So you can get your photo on a keychain, and you guys do
of
that.
resin, yes.
Yeah.
So we had one. Oh my god, we have some. So resin is a finicky little bitch. Like it just is so hard. So like it's temperature. It's like the humidity in the air. It's like you can have a batch that you mix up and you think everything is going to be right, and it's just like a bubbly mess. And if it's full of bubbles, there's just not much you can do about it, and it's just a sunk cost. Like it's just so we have had keychains we've made for y'all where like we just pour it and it's just like perfect and it sparkles from the second we finish it, and others where we have to do a few and like it doesn't turn out great. We always get extra photos printed so that we can like make more. We had one where it took us 8 tries to get this keychain right. 8. I was on my last photo. I was on my last like little bezel for it. I was like, okay. I was like, we're gonna do it one more time. And we were like, Chantel had done several, and she was like, I have to step away. Like, I can't do this. And I was like, it's okay, I got this. And like, it was so hard. It was humbling. And so like keychains are something that we love making, but they're also like, they're challenging, and we are just like, sometimes we know why and sometimes we just don't, and we're like, we got away with this one. Like this one turned out great. And so that's part of Camp Kramer is like us sort of troubleshooting, or like we'll get requests sometimes for something. People will ask for like, can you do, oh my gosh, like a tarot card inspired bracelet? And we're like, yeah, I think we can. And we're just like, and then we sit down and we like figure it out. And it's really cool because like the challenges they're always different. And yeah.
Reminds me a lot of like photography. Like what we go through.
Yeah.
Oh my god, totally. I'm sure when you have like people who have like really cool ideas, you're like, yeah, we can do that. Yeah. And then you have to figure out how you're going to make that happen.
Figure it out.
Yeah. Well, and also just, we will take like 1,500 photos like when we're shooting, but then it's like we narrow it down to like the best 60 or whatever that might be, and there's a lot of photos in there that aren't like, it's like the angle slightly off, or I was stupid and I like cut off their feet, or just some like dumb mistake that I did, or whatever it might be. But like we do that all the time, and people are like loving these new videos we're putting out. And for the people, like there are hundreds of video clips that like then we narrow down to the 5 that you see on Instagram. We're like, these are the best 5. So it's like, in order to even get to that point, I took so many that were blurry, out of focus, I was shaking, like nothing, it's like it's like just such a process. And it's like, we're obviously learning, we're getting really good, but yeah, we have our little trash bucket too.
Don't you think too, like, that's the difference too between, like, those are the insights, I think, that people maybe from the outside don't understand. They see the perfect photo that you put in your grid, and they see you guys' behind the scenes and are just like, oh man, they just make it look so easy. The thing that sets people who are good at something apart from everyone else is that, like, you're willing to have all of these mistakes and, like, all of the that comes with it, and, like, the learning.
I think this is reminding me of some other quote where it's like, I forgot who this was, but they're basically talking about, it's like the only difference between, like, people who are, like, great and good, or, like, the people that are great were just, like, good consistently. You just, like, every day you just kept doing it, like, enough, and then it's like eventually you get there, but it's just because you stuck with it. It's not because you're, like,
absolutely. Oh my gosh. So like in the beginning when you guys are introducing me as, like, some sort of expert, I'm like, I literally think I'm really comfortable saying I'm not an expert in anything except maybe eyebrows. I think you're an expert. I might be comfortable with that. And here's why, though, is that, like, I distinctly remember always having an eye for it, but I have the bad brow photos of my teenage years to prove that I was not always great, okay? Like, I have the proof. And I remember learning, and, like, I'm largely self-taught, like, in how I figured out, like, my technique and what I like, but I've just always been willing to, I didn't think I was great early on either. I don't even think I'm great now necessarily, and that's why I know I might be.
No, you're great now.
Is because,
you are great.
But I'm not, but I guess what, like, I'm not done learning. You know, like, I'm not done analyzing my work and looking for, like, I would do that differently. Like, I'm looking at photos of brows I did last week, and I'm like, no, I don't know, that one thing. Or, like, or even right now, like, my struggle is learning how to take better photos of my work and consistently getting more of that, because I feel like I don't have much of a portfolio, because I just want to get into the brows. I don't want to take the photos. Like, it's a whole other skill, right? It's a whole other art form that I am not that great at yet. And but brows is something that, like, I have put in just the work over and over and over again. And man, there are days I feel like I'm on fire early on in brows, and days where I was like, wow, like, none of these are blowing my mind, but, like, I know that I'm doing a pretty good job, but was always just, like, relentlessly, and not, like, in a shaming way or in a negative way, but, like, relentlessly critiquing my work and trying to learn and do better, like, just nerding out hard on, like, what makes an eyebrow great, searching for other people's photos, and, like, not necessarily picking them apart to pick apart other artists' work, but to really, like if I think I see an eyebrow that I like, then look harder and be like, why? What am I looking at? What is it they're doing? You know, like, just, is this actually a difficult brow to do, or is this a brow that is easy, and this is an easy one to take a photograph of? And, you know, like, really trying to, and, like, learning from that. Like, currently, like, I'm learning how to do eyebrow lamination, and, like, I've done thousands and thousands of brows, but I've done, like, 8 laminations. You know, like, I still feel like I'm new at something, and I'm learning a whole new thing. And I think that's maybe what makes me expert level, is that I'm just not willing to be done learning on that front. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You definitely are an expert at brows, I think. But I remember once you said, this was, like, when we both, like, you had kind of just started doing Camp Kramer, and I had, like, sort of just started doing Naked Peach, or, like, it was around that time, whatever. And we were talking about it and how, like, excited we both were for each other. And I remember you said something like, I feel like I've been training my whole life to do this. And, like, it, like, resonated so much with me, because I was like, that totally makes sense for her. That totally makes sense for me and what I'm doing. And I just feel like it's, like, because we've been trying all these little things without really any sort of master plan, it's, like, the thing that we sort of fell into, both of us, it, like, turned out to be, like, oh, this had made sense all along, and I never would have seen it coming.
In the world, right? It makes the most sense in the world. Oh my God, I forgot that I had said that. I need to remember that, because that is absolutely how I feel about it. I'm training my whole life for this. Yeah.
Should we do our obsessions?
Oh my God, I have so many.
You can do more than one.
Oh my God, I have so many. I'm really trying hard to, like, figure out how to, like,
you can go last.
Yeah, do you want to go last?
I want to go last.
Okay. I'll go first. You guys got my magic wand.
Yes, tell us about it.
Everyone needs to buy the magic wand. Okay. Taylor's been saying this now for how long? And even before the pod, you were telling me I need to buy a magic wand.
It's the only toy you need.
It's the only toy you need. It's the best toy in the whole wide world. Like Taylor said, it's large, and so it just
large and
vibrates the entire area. There's a lot of nerve endings there, you know? And so it's like you just need something to get all of them.
And you got the rechargeable one, right?
Yes.
I'm so jealous. Me and my cord over here.
You need to buy it for yourself.
Stuck in 1980.
I also still do not have a magic wand, so like I have not done it yet, but like there's something to be said, I think, for like the tried and true.
Yeah. You need to buy it.
It's a classic for a reason.
Yeah.
Okay, so my obsession this week it's something I've been doing for a long time, but realize I don't think I've ever really talked about it on the podcast. I don't think I've ever posted about it on my stories, like nothing.
Wow.
So I've been gatekeeping it. But Megan does this too, I think. This is a trick that I learned from going to the acne treatment center, which is where if you can see my skin right now, you know that I'm probably due for an appointment, but like a lot of what I learned from going there is like sort of lifestyle stuff of like things I should be doing consistently all the time to have good skin. And I just like, I'm such a dry, flaky girl, especially in the winter. Like my skin is so dry and flaky. And so something I do like every couple of days is I do a Vaseline mask. So I'll put on like all my moisturizer. So I do like a layer of my nighttime moisturizer. I do a layer of like my oil. I do a layer of my daytime moisturizer, let it all soak in, and then put a layer of Vaseline on top and just kind of like let it hang out for ideally like a couple hours. But like this morning I did it for like 15 minutes just to like get some of the flakes off. Because I was feeling really flaky and I was like, I can't be doing a full face of foundation with these flakes. And I feel like it just makes a really big difference. And it's like such a nice kind of like quick fix. And if you have like acne and you have struggled with skin, I feel like it's just, there's not a lot of quick fixes in the world. And it's nice to have like a few up your sleeve. So I wanted to share that as my obsession.
Okay, what are your 12 obsessions?
Yes, tell us.
Oh my god, I have so many obsessions. Okay, but I'm gonna narrow it down. Okay, so my new obsession is doing something for my future self. So it's this like idea of like looking for ways I can do a little something nice for my future self by doing something. So like I won't do it unless I give myself that kind of like mental trick. Mm-hmm. Like I'm doing it for me later. If I just tell myself this is what I should do, I should put this laundry away or whatever the little dumb task is, I'll be like, yeah, I should do that and then not do it. Mm-hmm. But my future self would really appreciate it. And I think about like me in the future being so happy about it. And it like really helps.
Yeah.
It really is this like hack to get myself to do it. And then, okay, so that's is like looking for things I can do for my future self. And then the enjoyment of being like, I did it. Like like when you get to cash in on that, when you're like, I am future self right now, enjoying the task.
Here she is.
Yeah, like it is like a true, it's like far more joyous than like if I had just done it and not had any thought process. But like there's something about like intentionally doing something like that for yourself that is really, it makes it 10 times more enjoyable. But if you need something else to help you get through the little dumb task, do you guys know this one? The special little drink for a special little guy. Do you know about this?
No. What is this?
So I first heard it on TikTok, okay? This woman was like, sometimes you just need a special little drink for a special little guy because a special little guy is doing a really good job. So like, this girl was like, that's what she said, right? So like, your special little guy is like, you know, yourself. Like, It's like you imagine like your little buddy is with you and you're like, oh, little buddy, like I'll get you a treat while we go do this dumb errand, while we go pick up dry cleaning.
Your inner child.
It feels like, it's like, so sometimes your special little drink is like, I don't want to fucking go to work. And like, maybe you need to like, be like, I'm allowed to go through the drive-thru at Starbucks and like get my dumb, big, gigantic drink. Maybe it's just like making sure that you're stocked up on your favorite tea. And in order to get through sanding all of these dumb things that I don't want to sand, I also hate sanding, by the way. It's like my least favorite thing in Camp Kramer is like sanding. It's too dry.
Yeah.
Sensory issues.
Yeah.
So like if I have my like big old mug of tea, of my favorite throat coat tea, like it helps me just getting through those little tasks or getting through like the traffic to go pick up my kids from preschool by like having my special little drink. So like letting yourself have these treats like all the time, at all times, in order to get through those other things and intentionally being like, here's my special little drink for a special little guy because I'm doing a really good job.
Can it be a special little croissant?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No. Oh, a special little drink is
It's
close.
relative. Yeah.
It's all,
Okay.
Special little drink could be literally anything.
I love this.
Maybe my special little Nutella.
Yeah.
My healthy Nutella.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, I've been doing like a special little drink every day because it's been almost 3 weeks since I vaped. So it's like every day I'm like, I deserve not just one treat, I deserve a treat every 2 minutes.
All the time.
All the time, yeah.
It's whatever it takes.
Yeah. It takes a lot.
That's...
I love both. Those are both such good like mental like I don't want to say hack because I feel like it's an annoying word, but like, you know.
I know hack feels like
it feels like tech bro-y.
Like everything is a hack. Okay, but I have one more obsession.
It's a dupe. It's a dopamine dupe.
Okay, I have one more, and it goes in. Okay, so like I am a Stanley Cup girl. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have the big one also with the straw. Like I'm pointing at my other one here. Mm-hmm. Like I have the big one with the straw, and like I'm here to tell you that it is worth everything. But the very top of it is like recessed, and it's perfect for snacks. So if you take
so smart.
No, I'm telling you, you can put your fruit snacks in there, and I 100% suggest going to Costco and buying fruit snacks for yourself as an adult. There's
as
nothing.
Your special little drink.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, me picking up my kids from preschool with my fucking Stanley Cup and fruit snacks in my cup, genius level.
Yeah.
That's a hack. That's a dupe right there. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you, that thing is so good. Worth every penny.
That's so smart.
So I love that big Stanley Cup so much. I bought myself the smaller one that closes so that I can like not have to worry about it spilling. This is my travel one now.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Other one stays at home.
But the snack lid is like
the snack lid.
Genius.
It's such a good size because it's like this. Put a little goldfish in there. Brilliant.
Wow.
I love this.
Incredible.
These are all great.
So many.
Great obsessions.
So many dupes.
Yeah.
I have a lot.
Where can the people find you?
So many Instagrams. Okay, so there's my personal Instagram, which is Jennytown USA. Jenny is my dearly departed dog. My name is Megan. Everyone thinks I'm Jenny. Jennytown USA. And then for Camp Kramer, it's Camp_Kramer with a K. Kramer with a K. And then Studio Dark, DARC, is my brow studio with my coworker. So that's where you can find me.
Yay. You can find us at Naked Peach Boudoir and nakedpeachboudoir.com. You can find me at T Smells with a Z.
You can find me at Anna McLaughlin Photo. And we'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.